Well, in the latest coming in at this hour, peace talks between Russia and Ukraine have begun in Belarus. The meeting is taking place on the Ukrainian-Belarusian border near the Pripyat River. Ukraine has called for an immediate ceasefire and withdrawal of Russian troops as the country's delegation arrived for talks with Russia. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is not part of the delegation, but it is a high-level delegation involving the Minister of Defense, advisor to the President of Ukraine, and the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. Zelensky himself on Sunday set low expectations for the meeting, but said it was worth a try.
Скажу відверто, як завжди, я не дуже вірю в результат цієї зустрічі, але нехай спробують. Щоб потім у жодного громадянина України не було жодного сумніву, що я, як президент, не намагався зупинити війну, коли був нехай і маленький, але все ж таки шанс.
Once again, the delegation or the talks in Pripyat have already begun, and we understand that the Ukrainian delegation is already at the Belarusian-Ukrainian border. As the talks commence at this hour, we'll be giving you all the latest updates from Gomel, which is the location where the talks are expected to happen. Well, talks between the Russian and Ukrainian delegations are expected to start later today. The head of the Russian delegation was quoted by Sputnik as saying, and President or the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is not part of the delegation at the Belarus-Ukrainian border. And earlier, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had rejected Russia's offer to hold negotiations in Belarus, suggesting alternative cities, including Budapest and Warsaw, for talks. Zelensky made the remarks in a video address posted on his Telegram channel on Sunday, shortly after the Kremlin announced that a Russian delegation has arrived in Belarus and will be ready to negotiate with Ukraine in the city of Gomel. Now, the president said Ukraine is ready for talks with Russia, but Belarus is not an option because Russia has been carrying out some of its attacks from Belarus. WION has been the only channel to give you a complete picture of the Ukraine-Russia crisis and to give you a better analysis of how Ukraine is fighting against the ongoing Russian assault. For a deeper insight into the ongoing developments, we were earlier joined by Alexander Bratetsky, a senior analyst from Moscow.
A lot will depend on negotiations. Maybe the first stage of those negotiations would be a failure. But if talks will continue, we might have some progress. Let's say with President Zelensky moral support from other European countries, he looks more like a war president, a former comedian. He looks more than a war president than somebody else. So it looks like if negotiations will start, if Ukrainians will be able to save their face, not to surrender on very bad terms. I mean, I would say realistic grounds would be sort of the Russia to hold certain parts of this Donbas territory, which is actually controls de facto, and Ukraine to have the provision that it will not join NATO anytime soon, so become a neutral country like Finland or whatever. The two realistic options, and then Russia gets away from the whole Ukraine. This is most of the Ukraine. That's a possibility. Those are normality of the talks. But when we see, but we see events are going a little bit away, because when the negotiations were announced, President Putin has also put the Russian nuclear detergent on alert. Yes, and this is also kind of a very bad sign. Although he's not, of course, going to strike the West, I would say realistically, with a nuclear button, because at this time, Russian Federation would be destroyed as well, because there's no winners in a nuclear war, as President Gorbachev and President Reagan once said, and actually that phrase was repeated by President Biden and President Putin a month before this situation. But we all will depend on how things will go, how negotiations will go, right? So this is very important.